Welcome to Easy File Drop. I'm going to give you a very quick and very brief demo of all the great powerful features and settings available within Easy File Drop. So here's an upload form that we created with Easy File Drop. It's very simple, and the goal of this upload form is to receive photos and videos from a customer picnic we had, where we had a bunch of our employees, vendors, and customers. So back in Easy File Drop, I'm going to show you how we made that form. Here's the form right here in my forms list, and I'm going to go ahead and edit it. I'm going to run through a lot of these very briefly, but here's where we go and input the project name, which is the form name, where I can create a URL. I can create a totally custom URL for this. Here's where I can share it with my team. I can upload a logo to go on the top of the page. And here's where I can input text, either the header, the page text, and I can put a message for when files have been received. Now, the important part, here is the actual form builder. I can go ahead and add any new field I want. Here you can create a text field, email field, phone, short answer, drop down, checkbox, radio button, and you can even have multiple file upload drop zones per form. We'll talk more about that later. I'm going to cancel this one. What's also great is I can reorder any of these elements that I want. I'm going to go ahead and put that back. The other thing to note here is each of these options has settings, and within the gear icon here, here's where we can add some help text or choose to make the field required. Now the big one that is worth noting here is for the drop zone. There's a lot of powerful settings in here. You can restrict the file upload based on number of files. If we want to only let people upload 5 files, we can do that. I'm going to turn that off. We can only allow specific types of files. We can input file extensions here and only receive JPEGs, for example. But I'm going to turn that off. I can also restrict the file size. For instance, I'm going to set this to the max here of 25 gigs. Easy File Drop was built for large files, so I'm going to let people send me the big stuff. So these are the basics for creating the form. Let's go up and go to the next section here. So here's where I set my upload destination within my connected cloud service. For instance, I'm going to use Google Drive. I've already made the connection from Easy File Drop to Google Drive over in Cloud Settings, and now I can just select that here. So here's the folder in my Google Drive called Customer Picnic. I can either create a new folder here, or I can select one I already have. For instance, I already have a folder called Customer Picnic, so I'm going to use that. Now next, I'm going to create a dynamic subfolder. So what this means is I'm going to use team name to drive the folders. For instance, over on our form, we made a form field called team name, and people can select which team they're on. And that's what's going to drive this folder name here. So it's going to either be in the blue team, green team, yellow team, red team folder. Then after that, I'm going to create another dynamic folder, and we're going to select the name field. Again, these are fields from our form. And Easy File Drop is going to create folders to place the uploaded files in the appropriate place. So, super powerful. We call this dynamic file organization. Now, we can also append the file names with any of our form field as well. Now, I'm not going to do that for this, so I'm going to turn that off. Another great feature is if you wanted to add all of your form submission data to a Google Sheet. Super useful for some unique situations. It's not needed for right now because we can view all of our form submission data within Easy File Drop. This is just an additional feature for the power user. So next, we have the style settings. Here's where we can completely customize our form. Now, just to let you know, I didn't change much to this. This is largely what the default looks like. All I did was change the color of the button to better match the logo blue. So here's where I went and did that, my submit button. Here's all my various settings, and I just made it, I eyeballed the blue to be that color. But man, we can change the padding between different elements on the form. We can round these corners. We can change the color. We can even put an image as our background. There are just so many options. The other part that is great too is we can style the different form states. So if somebody has, there's an error, they didn't input a required field, this is what that's going to look like. And here's what it looks like when the form is submitted. You can completely style this in so many great ways. Even what the password area is going to look like. You can totally make that fit your brand. So with that, next we're going to go to notifications. There are 3 types of email notifications within Easy File Drop. There's the uploader notification, which you can think of it like a receipt. If you have an email field in your form, the uploader, by default, will get an email saying your files have been received. Here's what that email looks like. This is the default email that Easy File Drop is going to send. Next is the team notification. This would be you, the form owner, and anyone else you want to add. Here's what this email looks like. It includes links to download each of the files that were uploaded, all the form data, and then a link to go view the files, say on Google Drive. And then the third-party notification, it's off by default, but it's simply the ability to say if you wanted to include a client in the email so they could keep tabs on who's receiving what. Here's what that email looks like. It just doesn't have a link to view the files in the cloud storage, but you can still download the files. So what is also very cool and very powerful is I can change the email type to a custom HTML email. Now I can write my own HTML and I can use these variables to pull data into my email. I'm going to set this back to the default. Security real quick, you can password protect your form. You can add Google CAPTCHA to minimize spam. Then there's submission limits. This is great for, say, contests. I can limit the number of submissions. If, say, I was saying I only want to receive the first 20, I can simply input 20, and then I can have a message displayed after 20 to anyone else that wants to submit. And the same for limiting submissions by a date and time. For instance, we can only receive uploads until midnight on Wednesday. We can do that. Great for a contest. I'm going to turn that off, not for this. Here's where I can quickly get the embed code for my form. And we have some very quick options to just turn this stuff off if all you want is the form to put on, say, your own website. You can easily grab that there. Form owner is where I can change ownership and assign the form to somebody else. Only the form owner can edit the form, so that's why you might want to go do this. Here's the Zapier integration. If you need the UUID for this specific form, you can grab that here, and that wraps it up. And let's go back here to view our form. So we can hit this button here, take us to our form. Here it is. Let's quickly fill it out. So I can select my photos from my computer. I see them, a preview of them right here, and I just click submit. Now it's also worth noting that this form is completely optimized for mobile. So someone can upload original high resolution photos and videos from their camera roll on their phone. So let's go back over to Easy File Drop. So back in Easy File Drop, I can see now that I have 4 submissions, whereas earlier I only had 3. Let's go ahead and click on that. So here's Stanley, who just submitted. I can view all the form data, view how many files, how large all the files are together, and then I have links to go view each file on Google Drive. Let's hop over to Google and see what this looks like. So again, we talked about that organization earlier. Here's my folder, Customer Picnic. Now here's my yellow team folder that Stanley selected that he was on. And look, Easy File Drop created this folder with his name in the appropriate team folder. And there's all of his images. So that organization is just truly so powerful for large scale projects. So back in Easy File Drop, I can, again, view all my submissions here. I can download all of this data as a CSV to use elsewhere. One last thing I want to mention, say someone on your team has spent a lot of time to style the perfect form. Well, like a template, you can straight up duplicate a form. This is a great way if you've already styled that perfect form and spent a ton of work building a complex form, you can just duplicate it. The one note is you have to go in and reset the upload destination, since upload destinations are unique to each user. That's it. That's a very quick and very brief overview of Easy File Drop.